Welcome to a special expert mini-series for Center State CEO's podcast, Talk CNY, presented by NBT Bank.
In this series, we'll feature experts from across Central New York and beyond to dig into our membership's most requested topics. You'll also hear stories of successful collaborations between a few of our long-standing members and Center State CEO that could inspire your next big move.
Take a moment right now to subscribe in your listening app for reminders every other Wednesday for our main podcast series, and be sure to catch the rest of the expert mini-series as well.
Today, we are joined by Center State CEO member Pierre Morrisseau, CEO of OneGroup. OneGroup is a full-service firm committed to reducing risk for businesses, allowing them to focus on achieving success. Today, Pierre will draw on his nearly 30 years of experience in insurance and risk management to share some best practices and avoidable pitfalls for small businesses.
I'm Andrew Fish, Senior Vice President of Member and Business Experience at Center State CEO.
I'm Kate Hammer, business coach and member at Center State CEO. We are your hosts for Talk CNY. Pierre, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Appreciate
absolutely. So we would love to hear a little bit about OneGroup.
Sure. OneGroup, we're traditionally an insurance brokerage firm, but we started a long time ago as Bailey and Haskell Associates, and about 2014 rebranded to OneGroup to kind of bring a little bit more about who we are and what we're trying to be, which is really a large group of professionals there to help businesses survive and succeed. Survive because we think of insurance as kind of the crisis, but succeed because there's really a lot of ways that businesses of all sizes can leverage risk and use it to their advantage.
Yeah.
We have about 240 people. We're spread across 5 states. We're the only insurance agency of that size based right in Syracuse here.
Mm-hmm.
And we spend the time locally supporting businesses in our community.
That's great. So, Pierre, you provide an important service to small businesses, and businesses of all sizes really throughout the Northeast and the Eastern Coast. Why is risk mitigation such an important factor for small businesses?
Yeah, it's a great question. I used to teach at the boot camp at Syracuse for a small business. And I put a slide up there that starts out with, why do you buy insurance? Why do you need insurance? Or when do you decide to buy insurance? And you can go through this. Oh, well, we figured out all the risk and exposure. And then we figured out what insurance we want to buy. And then a big circle comes up with a slash through it saying, no, that's actually not the way it works. It works that way as soon as a larger company that you're doing business with asks you for a certificate of insurance. That's the very first time people think, oh, I need insurance. And the reason that the larger company asks you for that is because when they're doing business with you, they're the deep pocket. So if you do something wrong, the lawyers don't care about the small business. They care about the deeper pocket. And so the university, in this case, Syracuse, let's say, is worried about protecting themselves from that. And so the easiest way you can be worth $1 million to $5 million, depending on the coverage you buy, is with a simple insurance policy that costs you about $400.
It's great.
Yeah. So that's the number one thing. The number two thing is no matter what size you are now, you're going to get bigger, most likely. And you need to think about building, the foundation of practices that will make you insurable as you grow, because you will start to complain about the cost of insurance as you get bigger.
Sure, certainly. And those practices can actually help bring that cost down, right?
They absolutely do. So think of it like a bank. When you go to a bank, if you have good finances, you get better terms and conditions. It's the same is true with insurance companies. Now, when you're small, they kind of do it in a black box. Oh, you're this, we'll charge you this. But as you get bigger, they really look at how well you are managing your business. And that relates directly to mitigating risk.
Great.
And saves you money.
Yeah, for sure. It's just always a good thing.
Yeah. Can we actually hear some of the specifics? What are some of those things that you can do?
Yeah. All right. So if you think about it, it depends on what kind of business you're in. But if you're in a retail business, for example, so you think about one of the biggest risks from a liability standpoint, as you see on the news every day, is slip and fall injuries. And then apparently, no matter when anyone slips and falls, it's apparently your fault. Right? Not fair, but it is the way of the world. And so really establishing processes in terms of keeping the sidewalks clean, outsourcing that, using a contract to transfer your risk, having processes to document an incident and bring it to, get the details down, whatever they are, so that when you do have a claim, it's very easy to present your case and then the insurance company can take care of it. Employee manuals, standard processes, safety controls, those are all things as you get bigger or you start to work in more dangerous industries, like construction, really having those processes in place, training. So all the things, when you think about it, that would make your business better anyway.
Yeah.
And if I recall correctly, OneGroup doesn't just focus on those policies and writing those and being the brokerage, but you actually work with your clients and help them understand what those practices are and help them identify and work through them, right?
Yes, we think the biggest gift we can give back to the community is helping small business grow and thrive. And so everyone has the same problems, whether you have one employee or you have 10,000 employees. The way you have to solve that problem is different based on your size and scale, right? You know that. And so we try to package things down to really easy to use tools that you can implement in your business. We have a thing called the HR Corner where we're sending out all of this stuff around HR regulations. So hard to understand, but so vital to so many aspects of your business. So we simply push information out. We also host educational structures. We'll come out and work with you. We build things for people specifically depending upon their business. We've worked with the genius companies. Okay. That's not easy to insure the stuff that they're doing,
for
right?
Sure.
And the more you're a startup, less likely someone wants to insure you because you don't have a track record. So really being able to talk to them and work with them on the specifics that they need to go to the carriers, asking the carriers what's relevant to them, we help you work on. But everything else is people. How do we help you manage people better? So we do that every day, and we'll help you do it every day. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's talk about people. Let's talk about what people do wrong. What sort of red flags crop up that you're just like, oh boy, here we go again. See it all the time.
Yeah. The biggest one is we're all in a labor shortage. And so hiring people just because they're there, you know, or breathing was the term, but well, you know, when you're desperate, your first urgency is to solve the problem. It's a very real thing. We all go through it. But the reality is what we help people understand is that first employee, especially if you're going from one to an employee, getting that right employee and taking your time to find that person and find that mix is probably the hardest one to extend to. So really thinking about what you want that person to do and how you want to grow. Now let's scale that up to 10. Well, now you've got structures in place and you don't usually have the resources to do it. So not really relying on some outside resources to build that employee handbook and the support stuff that Center State does is really one of the key mistakes. Build it like it's going to be McDonald's. Build it like it's going to be a franchise someday. It's so much easier to do that stuff in the beginning. There is plenty of standard materials. We have a whole access to a resource. It's got video training. It has standard materials. It's very easy for us to customize it to your point, but we're all in a hurry, right? We're trying to get out and get the work done. So forgetting that piece that you have to build those processes and procedures in place now, both from an operation standpoint and a risk standpoint, is one of the biggest mistakes I see.
Okay. So get started early.
Get started early and lean on other people. You do not need to create this yourself. It's been done many, many times before.
So when you think about, you know, startups and businesses getting started, which is really this where you want this foundation to be laid, you know, you mentioned getting help, because I remembered when I was taking my coursework in entrepreneurialism, and I've started a couple of businesses myself. There's three aspects to running your business, right? There's the doing the thing or making the thing. There's the finance aspect of it, and there's the selling aspect of it, right? And the reality of it is no one person can do all three of those things, right? So find yourself some help. Most of the time, the entrepreneur knows how to make it or knows how to do the service because that's why they're doing it. This risk piece, this HR piece, all of that kind of falls under the finance and doing that operation. And oftentimes that's where businesses fall down the most. And that's where they really need to reach out and get more help.
I think it's completely accurate. And the other surprising thing that people don't know when they're in business is so many people want to provide the help. You just don't know where to look. So, you know, if you think about just the resources at Center State, for example, it's large. But, you know, if you walk in at the front door, you're not going to know that all those exist.
Sure.
And the second thing is you're going to find is many, many people who have succeeded like yourself want to pay it forward. And that's the methodology that we apply at OneGroup. It's really not about the insurance transaction. It's not about, you know, the concept of insurance. It's about how do we help you survive? So whatever we know, we're going to pass on to you, because in the end of the day, it all translates over to risk, but mostly because we want to give back. And a thriving small business community is good for the community. That's just a reality that's proven every statistic you read. So knowing that it's okay to ask, I think that's what people think. They think they have to know all. No, you don't know most of the answers. Most of them.
Yeah.
You only know a couple of them.
That's true.
So I've been very fortunate to have met many people who've mentored me in my career and completely willing to give with it. And so whether it's us or you or others, other brokers, a lot of us have this similar kind of mindset.
Yeah, I think that's so important to point out, though, that it's not just this transactional relationship, that there is this element of advising, consulting, coaching that goes into the work that you do.
Yeah, it's probably the most of what we do. I've probably hosted, people will ask, whoever it is in the business, could you meet with so and so? And I'll do it I'll stop whatever I'm doing. We'll go meet with people. And it's amazing the quality of those interactions. Like I never know the questions, kind of like today. I never know the questions that I'm going to get asked, but you forget how much experience you have in that. And there's topics like communication, which is probably the number one problem in every organization. It's also the number one leverage point. So people will ask questions about that. It's so much easier when you have a specific problem you want to bring, and then we can provide you with that answer, as opposed to trying to read it in a book or
Sure.
read the whole book for the one thing. So we like to spend a lot of time. We've dedicated the design of our facility to actually hosting thought leadership. Center State and others come, and we host all kinds of meetings.
It's a great
there.
space.
Yeah, and the goal was, again, in our vision, how do we bring people together? How do we bring knowledge together? And the great thing is, if we don't know it, we probably know someone that does. And so why not just be the matchmaker and hook them up?
For sure. I actually think I owe my time here at Center State to that OneGroup space, because way back when we were doing the URI Upstate Revitalization Initiative, we had Center State CEO had an investor meeting there at OneGroup talking about the URI. And it was my first opportunity to get up and present to that group. And when I sat down, one of my colleagues now, Ben Sayo, who's still working for Center State at the time, sent me a text, and he was like, "Nice interview." So, but we all start in interesting ways. And one of the things I wanted to bring up is, you had a fascinating journey to insurance, or at least an interesting start. And I feel like every time you're interviewed, this question always has to be asked. But how do you go from a degree in chemical engineering to insurance?
It's a great question. So I should probably, full disclosure, I'm not French either. So if you really want to add some kind of craziness to it, I just have a French first name. But yeah,
you look shocked. Are you shocked?
Well, and last name.
Yeah.
So
that's a lot of French.
I'll give you the quick story. It's actually Scottish. It was originally Morrisseau or Morrisseau.
Oh.
They had to leave town quickly, is my story. And so they went to France and added the EAU.
There you go.
Came over to the US pretty quickly. And then my father just thought it'd be fun to name us all French first names. I got the best name. My brother Marcel, he has a little bit harder time in high school than I did. But
that's so harsh.
Not his fault. But yeah, so I have an engineering degree. I'm out in Boston, went to SU, and I'm looking for a way to get into sales engineering or field engineering. Answered an ad as a safety engineer for Wausau Insurance. Had no idea what that was. Didn't know insurance. Probably not the safest human being growing up either. Worked in construction and some other things. So I had a lot of real life experience to bring to the
what
table.
Not to do, right? Yeah.
What not to do, exactly. I used to talk about that. And I thought, well, maybe I'll do it for a year. I'll meet all these people. And it turns out insurance is really fascinating. The number of disciplines it uses, the benefit to society. If you think about places in the world that aren't have insurance, let's take Haiti when it has an earthquake. It doesn't get rebuilt. Katrina, people had insurance back in. People who don't, still 15, 20 years later, still not in their homes. So it's an industry that really relies on a lot of disciplines, including engineering. I have at least 3 or 4 attorneys that work for me. I have occupational therapists. I have engineers. I have finance people, all within the context of insurance. Who knew, right?
Who knew?
I didn't know. A good group of people. And I made a career of it, shifted from the engineering side over to the sales side and then the business side. So that's the quick story.
Awesome.
Yeah. It actually makes a lot of sense to me hearing how much you are talking about people and relationships, that element of your work. And so this allows for that. You are interfacing all the time.
It allows for you to help people. It's one of the few businesses where if our employees do better, we do better. If our clients do better, we do better. And if our community does better, we do better. So it's good for my personality because I like to make a difference in all those areas. So,
yeah.
It's fantastic. So if you had one thing that you wished those listening, business owners, our members, if there was one thing you wished that they would go do today, right, as it relates to thinking about risk mitigation, thinking about this being better tomorrow, what would that be?
My friend Terry Brown said it best, Rand O'Brien and Gary said they were the 3 most important people when I was going through business and building that business. And it was my attorney, my accountant, and my insurance professional. And small businesses don't like to bother any one of those 3 people. And you really should have them at least as coaches and mentors in your business. So I would establish really this methodology of being able to ask someone questions, not get a proposal, not go in and ask them a legal question, but that kind of mentor and guidance, if you can find those three people. And then, that's what you're looking for is, here's where I am, here's where I want to go. What should I be aware of? If you ask that question of them, they will come up with a lot of good answers for you. So we can get into a lot of technical stuff, but honestly, that's probably the best thing that they could do.
It's great.
Yeah, I love that question because it really helps you figure out what you don't know, and that, like, how else do you surface that kind of answer?
Right.
I love that.
You don't know the question.
You don't know the question, but you just gave us one. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're getting a lot of support and a lot of advice from people who, like yourself, have a tremendous amount of experience and have seen the good and the bad and what works and what doesn't.
Well, there's that old adage, how do you make good decisions? Experience. How do you get experience? Bad decisions. Why not work off someone else's bad decisions?
Exactly. Skip them if you can, right?
Yeah, skip them if you can.
Pierre, thank you so much for coming on. Really important information, really helpful. I think those that are listening or watching are going to really take away a lot of valuable information from this. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrew. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you too.
Center State CEO's podcast, Talk CNY, is presented by NBT Bank. You can find all the expert miniseries episodes on clickcny.com and all major podcast platforms. On Click, you can join a discussion about this episode and find additional resources on this topic. Click is Center State CEO's interactive digital chamber platform where our members connect, learn, and receive support from our staff.
For new episode reminders of our main series, Talk CNY, be sure to subscribe in your favorite podcast listening app. If you're enjoying Talk CNY, consider leaving a quick review or a 5-star rating.